do this all day. A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and beyond. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me, as always, for What If, Jack Superproud. How are you?
Pretty good today, doing well. The last episode of What If was super exciting, very interesting, included one of my favorite superheroes, or a version of him at least. So I'm very excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, this was my favorite one, I think, so far. So
I think it's second
I'm
for
really
me.
excited.
I think it's second.
Behind the T'Challa still.
Yeah, I still really liked that one. I was a huge fan of that one.
I'm a big murder mystery fan, so this one had a lot of good stuff in it. We are talking What If Episode 3. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? Directed by Bryan Andrews, written by A.C. Bradley and Matthew Chauncey. Originally released on August 25th on Disney Plus, with a runtime of 32 minutes. The synopsis here is: Nick Fury struggles to launch the Avengers when candidates are targeted by a serial killer. A little dark for a cartoon, I guess. But what was your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, it just kept me in suspense the entire time, trying to think about who it could be possibly. There were some points in time where it's like, oh, could it be the Winter Soldier or something, or could it be Loki, and he's acting on both sides of this kind of thing, because we see him come to supposedly avenge Thor's death later on. But and it was so suspenseful the entire time. Some great little Easter eggs throughout the episode as well. And I think it just did a really good job at subverting expectations all around. And I think that's what made it so good.
Yeah, like I said, this was my favorite one. I was able to solve the case. I'll tell you that much. I mean, obviously, when it was kind of obvious, but I was able to figure it out, before Nick did. I'll just say that much. And what's funny too, on leaks or stuff beforehand, people were saying it was Loki killing all of them. So I went in thinking oh, I already know who's doing this. And you kind of think that he could, because of the way he can control, when he took over Eric Selvig, or made Eric Selvig talk, how he wants to use the Tesseract at the end of the end credit scene of Thor. So you're thinking maybe he's doing it, like you said, but it turned out to be Hank Pym, as we'll get into here, which I thought was a really neat twist, because let me say, I'm a sucker for any of these, if we're going back to phase one, but interacting phase one characters with characters we met later. So, as we'll see, one reason why I really liked Captain Marvel is going back to before Avengers and kind of seeing some of those characters and interacting with characters that we already know at this point, but seeing them at a point where we hadn't known them is really cool. So this was fun. And before we get into the overall plot of it, I did just want to say, this plot takes place during the week that's known as Fury's Big Week. This was a comic book that was not this plot line, but, the comic book showed that it was the first tie-in for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it was a comic that showed Iron Man 2, Thor, and Incredible Hulk all took place within the same week. So that was what this is kind of based on. So for somebody if somebody did not know that, this might be the first time you realize that all of these stories were taking place at the same time for those three movies. So really exciting time. So let's dive a little deeper. The plot, over the course of the week, Nick Fury attempts to recruit heroes, and he starts with Tony Stark. And we kind of start at the beginning of Iron Man 2, not the beginning of Iron Man 2, the beginning of the episode, we're in Iron Man 2 when Nick Fury is going to talk to Tony, and Tony's up in the donut, eating his donuts. And let me say, I knew this was a murder mystery, but I didn't expect Tony to get killed off in the first minute of the show.
Yeah.
That was really exciting to me.
Yeah, it was wild because I was like, oh yeah, I know this part. Yeah, he's gonna get all this stuff, he's gonna fix it, and then something's gonna go wrong there. And then right away, now he's like, what did you do to me? And that was like the first really good moment of subverting expectations, because that line's like the same in the movie, and then you're expecting, oh yeah, that's normal, and then all of a sudden he just clocks down, it's sundown, it's over, and it just sets a precedent for this episode, as it's going to be like super crazy pretty much for the entire runtime.
Yeah, I like the scramble too of like, Natasha and Fury, like, oh, what's actually happening here? And she pronounces him dead, and they're going to arrest Natasha Romanoff. Shield is, and here's a great little Easter egg, like you said, or a little canon callback, right? With them talking about we see Grillo, Frank Grillo, and he is being the one taking Natasha away, and he says that she has to answer to Alexander Pierce, who was in the Winter Soldier as the head of Shield and Hydra and all that. So that was really fun because, again, it's one of those phase one. It's like seeing Alexander Pierce or hearing about him in a phase one type of setting, which is also great about Endgame when, they got Robert Redford for that one little clip where they come down from Stark Tower. And it's like, this makes the world feel real, makes it feel connected. And even in this cartoon, it does. But Shield takes Romanoff away. Fury knows that she didn't kill him, so he gives her something to help her get out of the handcuffs. And she's going to fight all of them in the truck, and then she's going to escape. So then, while that's going on, we get Coulson has found Mjolnir in the middle of New Mexico. It's funny though, because we kind of see a different side of Fury here, where Coulson calls him, and you're used to seeing this, and Fury starts heading out there, right, in Iron Man 2, and he leaves Tony to do his work with all of the stuff from Shield Archives. But in this, Fury's kind of like, I'm in the middle of something, dude. Like, Tony Stark just dropped dead on me, type of thing. And but Coulson's like, hey, this hammer is like here. You can't lift it. The other people are going to be locals already starting to come out. So just kind of a interesting way to set that up. And it's always great to see Coulson again. So I was really great that he got a big part in this episode. So Thor does arrive. He fights through everybody like he does on the like he does in the movie. But when he's going to get Mjolnir and he's about to lift it, we get the same scene where Clint is saying he can take the shot. Fury says, I want to see what he's going to do with it. But then the arrow launches anyway and ends up killing Thor. And now we're down 2 Avengers in the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and it's just like really funny afterwards to see like all of the aftermath with Hawkeye and everything, kind of like being like, I don't miss, and nobody quite believing him. But I really liked that part. I am a little confused how an arrow killed Thor, since he's a god. But
I think when he got sent down to Earth, he had lost his immortality.
Okay.
He was made human or more mortal. So
that makes much more sense.
Yeah, because I was kind of thinking the same thing until I kind of thought about it some more. But I think that was one of the stipulations when he gets sent down. And then they're going to go interrogate Clint Barton, and he's dead. He ends up dying. He was talking to himself, like he said, that he never lets go prematurely. He's always in control. He never slips. And then he's dead. And they're like, nobody was in here, right? Like nobody could have got in here. So it really starts ratcheting up the tension. And now we're down 3 in like the first 10 minutes of this episode. And man, it rolls pretty quickly here in the beginning. And then we get the bizarre scene of them sniffing Thor's corpse, saying how lovely he smells. That was a bizarre joke or scene. I don't know what that was. And they bring it up a few times where you're like, okay, I think we can move on from that joke. So anyway, Romanoff's on the run. She's going to go to Dr. Betty Ross, who is in The Incredible Hulk. She's going to try to have them take a look to see what killed, Tony. So she's able to determine that it was a microscopic projectile that was injected into Stark and actually prevented the needle and the antidote from actually going in there. So something was blocking it. The antidote never went in, and we get the projectile, which we'll find out later what that was. Fury then kind of realizes that everybody being hunted here is part of his Avengers initiative, and somebody's trying to stop the Avenger initiative from taking off. And I will say here is where I think I figured it out. Because what it did is it made me think back to the beginning of Ant-Man and how Hank Pym was with S.H.I.E.L.D. Already. And that's when I kind of started thinking, oh, maybe it could be him instead of Loki, because, Loki doesn't make sense. Loki has no idea about the Avengers initiative. Loki comes down knowing that Thor was killed and is ready to, take on Earth and take it over. And, Fury negotiates a truce that lets, so that way he can identify the killer. And he says, hey, if I identify this killer, you're going to be able to take him from me. Like, you'll have your pound of flesh. You can do what you wish, pretty much. Then we have Romanoff figuring out that Banner is there from just, I guess the pizza outfit is really what gave it away. And then we get, Thunderbolt Ross showing up to arrest them. Banner is shot, transforms into the Hawk, and then he's going to explode and he dies. And that's what I was wondering. I was like, are they going to be able to kill Hawk? Because usually you can't. So I was really curious about that. And then I was like, how is he just continuing to grow? And while I was thinking probably Hank Pym, I had no idea how they would have, how this threw me off of that. Once I was starting to think, oh, maybe it's him, this threw me off of that, because I was like, how does that even happen? Like, what is this? What is going on? What was your thoughts? Did you see Hawk just continuing to expand and blows up?
Yeah, I was still thinking, like, God, who could this be? Because I guess, like, if I'd thought about it more, Ant-Man, I probably would have guessed what we actually see in it, which the giant discs, right? That grew his heart, I think. So he died Grinch style,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Very Grinch-like thing.
Yeah, so it was a bit brutal, I think. I think his was the most brutal death of all of them, and that it was I think it really threw me for a loop, because I was thinking this entire time, literally whenever Hulk is even close to dying, he just like punches the crap out of the other guy, and it's just so it really threw me off, because I was like, oh, he'll be fine. But no, Bruce Banner was not okay. He was definitely not okay.
Yeah, so we lose 3 of our main 4 Avengers. Captain America had not been uniced yet at this point, so we don't have Cap yet, but we've lost 3 of the main 4 Avengers very early on here, and Clint. Then we get Romanoff, Nat trying to get into a deceased or trying to log into somebody's profile, right? But she finds out that somebody was using a deceased agent's profile to access the S.H.I.E.L.D. network. And then she is murdered, but she calls Fury and reveals that it is related to hope. It's all about hope. Not the concept of hope, but she's actually referring to Hope Van Dyne, which, maybe just spell that out for him, right?
Yeah, right. It's just a few extra words, right?
Yeah,
Van Dyne, just adding Van Dyne. Yeah,
they want to keep us in suspense, right?
Yeah.
But this is where it sealed it for me. I was like, okay, the Hulk thing threw me off, but now I know it's, Pym, especially the way that she's like fighting something invisible. I'm like, that, he's just super small. You can't see him. But yeah, I get it's for the tension time, but she says it's all about hope like 2 or 3 times. And it's like, Van Dyne, just add that part on there.
Just add Van Dyne, or even just say it's Hank. Like, I mean, if she could probably connect the dots. Like, she's getting hit by an invisible object,
thing,
a microscopic, nearly invisible object. What about the guy who we know can shrink down to that size and happens to be related to the person whose the dead person whose profile is being used? I mean, but yeah, you're right. For the suspense, it makes it a lot better. It makes it a lot better, but still, just
so Fury listens to this, and then he's like, "I got it. I figured it out." He goes to like the Sentry, thing that tries to kill Thor, and he says, I want to see your boss. And he makes a deal with Loki, which we don't see what it is, but we can figure it out. Then we're in the San Francisco. And we see the gravesite of Hope Van Dyne, and Fury is standing over it. And, I was a little skeptical when he, says, we see Hank come up. He's in like the yellow jacket armor, right? Which is really cool. But I was a little skeptical when he says, I don't think she would care because she's dead. I was like, it's not really a Nick Fury line. Like, ouch. Yeah. And then we figure out why that is, right? It's because it's Loki posing as Fury. And one thing that also gives it away is just like when he goes really small, like he just swats them. And you're like, Nick Fury can't do that. And then, you kind of start putting it together. But yeah, Hank Pym comes in with his yellow jacket suit. He is upset that Hope Van Dyne was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and murdered in 2009. So about a year or two before this episode takes place. And we learned that the Nexus event isn't the Stark getting murdered, right? The Nexus event took place years ago, at least 2 years ago, when Hope signed up for S.H.I.E.L.D. and then gets sent on a mission and gets killed because she was never affiliated with S.H.I.E.L.D. previously. So just a fun little twist there. So they defeat Pym. He gets taken into Asgardian custody. And then Loki then says, you know what, though? We're not going back to Asgard. We're gonna stay here. And it gets this shift right at the end here where Loki, within 24 hours of that, has now taken control of Earth, and the UN had just bowed to him, I guess, or just gave up. And Asgard is now stretched its realms to, cover complete control of Midgard. So pretty interesting there. Loki kind of gets that. And it makes sense when you think about there's no Avengers to stop him. So 2012 with the Chitauri is not needed. He can just be like, I'm here. Right?
Yep.
I'm taking over. And Fury's like, hey, I got to calls Captain Marvel in. They go find Captain America, and he's building a new team. And I thought it was cool, too. We got the pager sequence earlier, and he was about to call her, and then he's like, no, he solved it, right? He solved it. He doesn't need Carol anymore at that point. But yeah, so then that's how the episode ends. It was a lot of fun. It was a great episode, some twists and turns. But just like last week, I hope that there's room for a sequel. Maybe not this season, but they're talking about season 2 could already be released next year. So they've been working on it. It's also going to include some phase 4 stuff, they said. But I would love to see a continuation of this. Okay, who else can Fury go get right now in this universe to to take on Loki? Because I see a lot of people saying Captain Marvel is just going to steamroll Loki. I'm not sure if that's true.
Yeah.
I know she's strong, but she has to take on all of Asgard.
Right.
And then what happens when Odin wakes up and realizes Thor's dead and maybe Loki's dead or captured? Does he get pissed and come at them? There's a lot of story potential for where this universe leads to. And even the Watcher has said about how hope never dies. It's implied that they're going to be able to try to, stop this at some point. What are your thoughts on, would you like to see another episode in this timeline, or who? And if you could think of who else is out there that maybe Fury could pick up.
I would love to see another episode in this timeline. And one thing I could it would be awesome if maybe they could get the Fantastic Four somehow. I feel like they're making that into the MCU. I could be wrong about that, but
no, they are. Yeah,
they are. Yeah,
the guy who does the Spider-Man movies is doing Fantastic Four.
Right. So,
but also,
it's
another good one. Maybe this draws Wakanda out, right? Because they, now they're part of Asgard rule. They're like, I don't know about that, and maybe we get Black Panther and Wakanda teaming up with Fury, Captain Marvel, Captain America, and who else?
Doctor Strange potentially,
or the ancient,
or the ancient one. Yeah, that could work. I mean, it would be incredible, just absolutely incredible if somehow they could get the X-Men into this. But
I'm
not
maybe
holding my breath for that.
3 or something.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for them bringing in the X-Men into it, but it would be awesome if they could. But yeah, something tells me that they're not going to do that.
No, probably not. Probably not before they're introduced into the MCU proper.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's some good options there that they could bring in if they wanted to. A lot of the characters are around in Phase 1. They're just not like you said. Doctor Strange is not active yet, so they either wait for him or the Ancient One comes in and fulfills that role, which could be cool. Because everything else except for this Hope thing seems to have been
the same. Yeah. I mean, there are some other implications though. Yeah,
Rhodey could come in. Yeah,
because now someone needs to take up the Iron Man mantle. That would
and
be.
He's got the suit inspired. He gets the suit in Iron Man 2. Yeah.
So it could work out like that, but there's a lot of things that aren't going to happen. Like you can't get Scott Lang in here. Unless, as Hank Pym is in captivity in the with the Asgardians, he goes into his house and steals that stuff. But there's no Hank Pym watching him this time.
What if we get Scott as a different hero? Now this puts Scott onto a whole different track.
That would be incredible if that happened. But I just like Scott Lang. I like Paul Rudd, like I've said several times on this podcast. But I don't think there's a lot of hope for him getting into it, but Spider-Man potentially, I don't know. That would be cool because
he would have his homemade suit because he wouldn't have the Stark suit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we could get some of that. I'm trying to think of who else. Shang-Chi potentially could come into it. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
They get word on the Milano hey,
Earth is being taken over. And
and
Quill's
Peter,
my home. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, except he thinks that Earth and Missouri are two different places. So that might be a bit of an issue, but otherwise, I would love to see some more Guardians in there. But
yeah. So our point is, there's a lot of potential here for this plot line in this universe of who can rise to Fury's team. And maybe take over and stop and become the new event. Well, not the new Avengers, but the original Avengers in this universe, which would be really fun. Which is crazy because in this universe, then Iron Man was only active for a year or so, right?
Yeah, 2 years, I think, or
probably 2 years.
2008, I think, is when he gets captured. I think that's about right.
Yeah. So he's only active for a year or two in this universe, which is really cool. I mean, bad for him, but just a cool thought, right? Thor never even became active, really. as an Avenger. One thing I want to point out as well, and I'm not sure if anybody else had picked up on this, but this user on Reddit, LTC154, sounds like a droid, they said that, do we know who killed Hope? Because here's a cool thing. From the episode, we know that Hope is killed in Odessa, Ukraine. That's what Fury says on a SHIELD mission. In The Winter Soldier, Natasha says she got shot in the stomach in 2009 outside of Odessa by the Winter Soldier when she was protecting a nuclear engineer. So did the Winter Soldier kill Hope Van Dyne? That's a fun little like a connectivity issue. So in this universe, maybe Fury sent Hope to handle that, and that's when the Winter Soldier killed her, and that's kind of what sparked the changes.
Yeah, and one other thing I wanted to notice, like that I just thought of, like in a parallel to the movie, we see Hank Pym kind of get taken over by like this anger and all that kind of stuff. But in the first Ant-Man movie, you might remember when he's talking to Scott about the suit, like him wearing it and using it for so long, it drove him mad. Same thing. He was saying that to Darren Cross. And so is it possible that he keeps using the suit after Hope is killed, and that is what keeps him going down this path, and that turns him really mad, turns into a serial killer and all of that. So that was something that I was thinking about, that that's kind of what we see.
Possibly even before she's killed, because it sounds like if she's part of S.H.I.E.L.D., they never repaired their relationship. So maybe that he continued to do it, and it continued to drive him mad, like you said. So.
The other thing, since he has the yellow jacket suit, it makes me wonder if I'm not sure if they say in Ant-Man when they voted Hank out of his own company, right? But without Hope being there, potentially just pursuing S.H.I.E.L.D., so she wasn't ever on the board of Hank Pym Technologies, or he never gets voted out, and he works with Darren Cross and develops the yellow jacket suit early. So
he probably actively works with Darren on this. Instead.
Yeah, so
because he had raised Darren as part of like his protege, but like you said, Hope is usually there it's this whole plan, right? For Hope to kind of have them buy him out or whatever. But none of that happens in this. So that's another big plot. So
maybe we see in Nick Fury's team, Darren Cross as Yellow Jacket come to avenge his mentor in that. So maybe we do get some more Ant-Man shrinking tech and all of that kind of stuff. So but that was just something that I was just thinking about because I watch the Ant-Man movies way too much. They're some of my favorites. So I was watching that last night, and I was like, oh, wait a second, that can connect to this. So it's kind of interesting because I think that's a plausible explanation potentially for all of this, and could, like you said, leaves even more room for a sequel to this one. So
yeah, I hope so. I think it'd be cool if an episode's really good and it sets up a very interesting going forward, that they touch upon it again. Maybe not in the same season, but maybe they see response to it and they're like, oh, or they had just had fun with it. And, a writer who wrote this one comes back and says, you know how we kind of left it on this? I was just thinking, what if this happens now in that universe, and, how does that set everything going forward? So yeah, I think it'd be really fun if they could, eventually touch on some of those things. Cause I'd like to see, because I think it leads to not only just a cool story, but it's also it is also a what if story of now. Before is what if they're getting killed. Now it's what if the Avengers consisted of these members to start off,
Yeah.
Or you could start it off, what if Loki took over Earth? Then you can just kind of start, and it's almost there's multiple what if scenarios even off of this what if scenario,
Right.
It continues to expand, and
that's how the timelines branch out. That's how it works.
Yeah, this is how this one is the most interesting to me, because it leaves the state of the universe in such an interesting spot. At the end of the T'Challa one, there's no Thanos coming for them. There's none of that. Ego is there. We don't know what happens there. I'd like to see that. But other than that, what happens? We might still have Thanos out there, but now Earth is under Asgardian control. Is he going to still try to claim it from Loki? Is Loki going to have to team up with these Avengers that were trying to stop him to fight off Thanos now? Like, what happens when Loki already has what he wants, that Thanos can't be like, I can give you Earth. Now it's like, what can Thanos give him? Because he's already got everything. Thor's out of his way. Earth is in his command. There's nothing left in his way. He could kill his father, no problem. That, Loki's in his best spot here. That's going to cause a butting of heads between Loki and Thanos, and that's where you can kind of set up some stuff too.
Yeah. Oh man, there's just so many different paths you could take this down, and I imagine like if they like tried another time heist or whatever with like or something like that, like there's just so many different paths you could take this down. I would love to see. I think you could easily make an entire season just based off of this one scenario alone.
Yeah.
And it would be so good. I'm sure. Like the more we've been talking about this one is slowly moving up and closer to the what if T'Challa became a Star-Lord one. It's getting closer just because I hadn't thought fully about all these possibilities, and that's what makes this series, I think, so awesome. Really, all of the theorizing you can do with it and all of that.
And it may never come to fruition, but we can always sit here and be like, well, this is what I think would have happened after this, right? Because like I just said, some people may not think about, Loki already has what he wants, and now Thanos doesn't have any leverage. So that's my theory of what happens here. But somebody else can be like, no, this would happen instead. And you can kind of just keep dreaming up possibilities of these universes.
Yeah.
So that's most everything I have here. But before we wrap up, if we want to take a moment to talk Spider-Man trailer.
Oh yeah,
let's do that.
Let's talk that a little bit. Yeah.
So what we'll do is, if you haven't seen the Spider-Man trailer or you're not interested in that, you can turn it off here. But we're going to continue to talk Spider-Man No Way Home. This trailer came out on Monday. I watched it. I did a live reaction of it here. Sunday night, though, it leaked.
Yeah. Sunday
night it leaked. I don't know if you saw this leaked trailer.
I refused to watch the leaked one. I was like, no, Marvel is putting it out at a specific time. I've waited a long time. I'm gonna honor what they're doing here.
I watched it 5 times, man. I watched the leaked one 5 times.
Fair enough.
It was, once I heard it was leaked, I mean, everybody's talking about it on my Twitter. I was like, I want to just see what they're talking about. And my God, it's awful quality because it's a screen recording of a screen recording of a screen recording on a cell phone. So like,
fantastic.
It's somebody watching it on their phone and then somebody recording them watching it on their phone and somebody watching them, like it's like this inception of phones. But so the sound quality is not super great. So you can't hear every word. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know what they're saying there, and some people in the comments on Reddit and stuff are like, I think this is what they're saying, right? And then they had scenes that had no finish CGI. So like the scene with the subway or the trains and Doctor Strange bending them and everything, I could not tell what the hell that was on the lead. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at here, but it looks cool. But it was exactly the same trailer. So now I could actually just hear it clearly and see what happened. So what was just your initial thoughts when you saw this? Because I know you're a big Doctor Strange fan. Your favorite movie would probably be a Doctor Strange Ant-Man team up, right?
Yeah, but... I mean, yeah. If they gave me a movie with that, I would watch it probably 50 times, like in a row. Honestly, that would be incredible. But I love the Doctor Strange and Spider-Man banter kind of that happened in Infinity War. So I was super hyped for that. Doctor Strange, I love the comfortable wizard. The little comfy jacket underneath the cloak of levitation.
Yeah.
And it was just so awesome to see it. And I can't remember who made this video on TikTok about it, but there was this video about how the city of New York in all of the other Spider-Man like iterations, so like the Raimi movies and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, the city of New York is kind of its own character in how it interacts with him. So like, you know, in one of the Spider-Man movies, you have people throwing stuff at the Green Goblin so Spider-Man can save some people who had fallen over a bridge. And like in Andrew Garfield's, you have the crane operator who Spider-Man saved his son earlier. He can walk across those and get to Oscorp. Right. You know, now we're seeing New York become that character for Spider-Man, where like, you know, the city is reacting to him. And I think that will make it really interesting to make it more of like, I think it might make it feel like a little bit more grounded in like the real setting of it, where like, you know, it's not just against an empty backdrop where, you know, everyone is kind of like, yeah, Spider-Man, he's awesome and everything. Like it's a new look at it. And I'm really excited for it.
I think Homecoming did that well. I think Far From Home didn't because they were, you know, they weren't really in New York a lot.
Right. Yeah.
But in you know, like Homecoming has that great opening where he's going around New York, you know, he's saving, you know, stopping bicycle thieves. He's trying to stop a car thief, and we get that exchange of it's my car, right, dumbass, or whatever. And he's like, oh, my bad, you know, and you have Stan Lee yelling out the window to some woman there. So I thought they did good with New York there, but I know what you're talking about with like, we're going to start seeing the, you know, the other side of New York in Spider-Man, which has always been the skepticism of, is Spider-Man actually our friend? Because in the comics and in the other movies, he has a J. Jonah Jameson that is, you know, on his back, constantly swaying public opinion against him. Or in Amazing Spider-Man, you have Gavin Stacy, right? Is that the father name, or
I can't remember.
Whatever it is Captain Stacy, right? Is, you know, on TV saying that he wants this mass vigilante arrested. So you get those public opinion, you know, people out there. So now we're going to kind of get that because we have the Mysterio illusion that, you know, Peter Parker killed him, and he then unveils it's Peter Parker at the end of Far From Home. And we have J. Jonah Jameson pushing that. And it's very believable with, you know, all the misinformation on the internet around nowadays as well, that people would buy into this. You know, some people were like, why would New York think this when he, you know, just saved them in Infinity War and Endgame? Well, because Mysterio has like a fake video or deep fake type of technology that shows Spider-Man killing him, tells him it's Peter Parker, and says that the drones are his, right, as we'll see in this trailer. And it becomes this almost like he said, she said thing. And some people are going to be pro Spidey and some people are going to turn anti Spidey, as we see in, you know, as Peter's walking by, you get, you know, Devil in Disguise is one of the signs. That was really cool. And, you know, it's not just, as they point out in the trailer, it's not just putting him at risk. It's putting MJ at risk and Aunt May at risk and Ned at risk, because they're all probably going to get interviewed. They're all going to get talked to. Like, hey, did you know this? Did, you know, Michelle definitely knows this, because probably when he's caught, he's swinging around with her right when that video is dropped, you know? Ned, I'm not, I guess they would just start interviewing all of his friends or something. Aunt May, interesting. Somebody was able to like freeze frame. There's a scene in there where like Aunt May and Peter are watching TV, and they both kind of look like this, like they both kind of sit up and looking at the door, and they're wearing the same clothes in the police station as they are wearing in that scene. So some people think they're probably just watching TV when they come in and arrest them or something. So that's how, you know, like they're gonna, this causes Peter to be like, hey, I want nobody to remember who I am, right? Because Mysterio has kind of ruined everything. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because we kind of talked about it on Twitter, I guess, right? But there was this sentiment online that Doctor Strange would never do this, would never help him, would not be so lackadaisical with spell that could disrupt everything, and that it must be Mephisto, or it must be this Doctor Strange that we're going to see in What If, as if that's not going to confuse 95% of the general audience. But what is your thoughts on Doctor Strange helping Peter with this spell?
Well, here's the thing. Doctor Strange, as much as people are like, oh, he would never do this. Yes, he exactly would. The whole reason he gets into the situation of becoming Doctor Strange is because he was careless and texted while driving and drove off of a cliff. Like, and he has this massive ego problem all throughout training at the Sanctum under the Ancient One, all of that. He's always super egotistical, like, oh, I can do whatever I want. I can learn whatever spells I want at any time I want. And yeah, he saves the world like several times. Like, so that's going to inflate his ego even more. He was right about the 1 in 14 million scenarios or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden Peter comes along and he's like, hey, I need you to do this spell where everyone forgets who I am. And then Juan is like, hey, that's super difficult. Don't do it. It's bad. And he's like, a challenge. Let's go. Exactly. And so that is textbook MCU Strange. Like that is exactly what he would do in this situation. And like it makes so much sense that it is him. And also all of this stuff about Mephisto, can we give it a rest sometimes? Because I feel like it's hyped up so many shows, like the finale of WandaVision and everything like that. And it made a lot of people feel let down by it. Like it because I feel like there's no chance we're really going to get like a big bad like Mephisto, because we already know it's Kang. Like we already know the big bad of like this phase and probably the next phase or so is going to be Kang and or Galactus. Like it's going to be related to that. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to introduce like this big bad halfway through the phase. And then yeah, I personally think that it's a ridiculous theory, but you know what? People are free to think that theory. I just feel like it is very in character for Strange to do all this stuff, and it makes perfect sense. As someone who's watched a lot of the Doctor Strange movie a lot, I've read a few of his comics, like the newer issue ones as well. It seems very much like him. So I personally think that it's just Strange. He just has an ego problem. It's never going to get fixed, and that causes this. That's my theory. I think it's probably what's going to happen.
I'll tell you why I think people are so confused here. It's because it's been 5 years since Doctor Strange came out.
Yep.
And his last performance was in Infinity War and Endgame, where he was very straight-laced because the world was at stake and he was guarding one of the Infinity Stones. So he was taking it pretty legit. But like you said, he's not always that way, right? Also, people saying he's a neurosurgeon and he wouldn't be messed up on this spell just because Peter's talking. Doesn't he have somebody cover their watch because it's ticking when he's doing surgery?
Yep,
he gets distracted. That's what I'm saying. He gets distracted. So he, it is very much a Strange character, but the reason why I think people are so confused is because this will probably be the third or fourth set of writers that is dealing with Doctor Strange, and he hasn't been super consistent with the length of his, because he went from silly, egotistical to very serious in Infinity War and Endgame, which made him popular. Some people had never even seen Doctor Strange. They only know him from those movies, right? And then to this, where he seems a little bit more silly, he's loose, not, the state. He doesn't think he'll mess this up. And who knows if it even goes that way. It does look like it gets messed up, but it's probably due to Peter interfering. And if it does, maybe he fixes it real quick and they think everything's fine until all of a sudden you get Alfred Molina coming back as Doc Ock. And then they're like, wait a minute, this is not, we thought we fixed this, and I guess we didn't. One reason why people keep thinking Mephisto as well is because, this plot line heavily comes from One More Day, the Spider-Man comic book, where he makes a deal with Mephisto. But, when it was first announced Doctor Strange was coming, I thought this would be the plot line they would go with. Have people forget his, his name and stuff. and that would he would almost have to sacrifice his relationship with MJ the way he does in One More Day, which I think might still be the way it goes. Either MJ either dies or he realizes for her safety he cannot tell her again when she forgets that he's not going to be able to tell her again, and it changes the course of their relationship, and maybe they don't get together. I still kind of think that's the way that this plot line is going, but let's get to the money shot, I guess. But I guess let's talk before we get to Melina and stuff. But just the scene of Doctor Strange versus Spider-Man with the subway cars and stuff, and them fighting. How excited were you to see kind of more Doctor Strange trippy action here? As he's gonna, he even gets the bending of the sky and everything again. It's crazy.
Those visual effects are some of my favorite in not just any Marvel movie, but any movie really. Like the visual effects in Doctor Strange are beautiful, awesome, trippy, all of that. And I loved that. I was like, oh yes, more of this. Let's go. I was just so excited to see it because it just makes it feel cooler, and it gives it like even more of a sense of mysticism, especially when it's done so well. Like, you could get like, if they had tried to do this in like, the 70s or 80s with this, it would have looked terrible, I'm sure. But the way it's done so beautifully, like, I'm just so excited to see more of those visuals, and I hope we get plenty of shots like that one, because it's really what shows like the best part of Doctor Strange, I think, which is how much power the sorcerers have to really change reality in the world around them. And I think I really enjoy that stuff.
All right, then we see, we see a pumpkin bomb on the bridge, circa Spider-Man 2001, right? Or 2002, whatever year that was.
Yeah, 2002, I think.
Yeah, 2002. With William Dafoe's Green Goblin, matches the same bombs there. Then we get the tentacles of Doctor Strange. We also see a lot of sand and a lot of lightning. We already know Jamie Foxx is in this as Electro again, so there we go. There's been rumors of some of these other ones that have not been officially confirmed, but then we see Doc Ock de-aged, a little lighter. I think Alfred Molina lost some weight, so it doesn't have an exact match here, but he comes up and he says, "Hello, Peter." Is he talking to our Peter, or is he talking to Tobey Maguire? What's your thoughts, Jack, on that?
It's tough because I could see it going either way. I kind of want it to be Tobey Maguire. I want it to be his Spider-Man because I think it would be cool. And I don't think we're going to get confirmation of that in any trailer that we get. I have a feeling that if it is like, if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this, it's going to be kind of like, they're trying to create like that Endgame moment in theaters where like everyone comes to the portals and everything like that. I would absolutely love it if like, all of like the Sinister Six, they're all like on this bridge, and Tom Holland Spider-Man, he's just standing there and like he's like kind of backing away or something. And then all of a sudden, like Doctor Strange opens two portals and out comes Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like that would be an absolutely incredible moment. And then that's when that "Hello, Peter" line, that comes in. That is my dream and my hope. And as such, I'm going to believe that is what happens.
I think they are in this. I think that they're going to be in this. And I think we'll see them the next trailer.
Okay.
Because I think what they want to do is Tom Holland, very popular Spider-Man, though there are a segment of people that don't like him, call him Iron Boy or whatever. Right?
Iron Boy Jr. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah.
So I think if you want the Toby fans and you want the Andrew fans to show up, you're going to want to get them in the seats, especially during this COVID time where the box office is a little down. So I think that they will show that in the second trailer.
Okay.
I think they'll be the money shot of the second trailer instead of Alfred.
Okay.
So I guess they could go William Dafoe.
They could.
It's rumored he's in this, and I think the bomb kind of gives that away there. But
the laugh too.
Gonna,
The laugh too.
Yeah,
the Green Goblin.
Green Goblin.
Yeah. I am very excited for it. I've also seen. I hope this is how the movie starts, because I've seen a ton of people say this on Twitter, where like Flash Thompson is getting like a Spider-Man tattoo as the news comes out that it's Peter Parker. I think that would be hilarious, because
he'd be like, wait, it's Peter the whole time? Come on.
It's such a funny character, and I think they kind of use him like perfectly in like this sort of in this series of movies. Like he's not like a typical like bully or anything like as we see in the other Spider-Mans. I just hope he gets utilized really well in this one, and I think they have the opportunity to make like a really just hilarious opening, and I would love to see that. But I have a feeling that's just a wayward theory that won't come to fruition. But I guess I can have some of those too. I can have some too.
I have just kind of my last thoughts on it. I see a lot of people, who always talk bad about either this Spider-Man or this MJ or whatever. And I get it. Not fully comic accurate, right? But I think we've had 3 interpretations of Spider-Man. Not every single one can be by the book comic book accurate, or else we're going to be very bored. The fun that it is going to be if Andrew and Toby are in this is that how different all of them are is going to make it all worth it, I think. I love all 3 of these Spider-Men. I went and saw each one of these movies in theaters. Spider-Man, even Amazing Spider-Man 2, I saw in theaters. And I was a big Amazing Spider-Man 1 fan. I really love the suit in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that's pretty much all I can say about that one. But I, for some characters, I want comic accurate stuff. And I think a lot of times that comes to characters that haven't been done correctly yet, or characters that haven't been done at all. So obviously for like Wolverine, I'm going to want him in his yellow and blue suit. I want the full suit. I want Wolverine, Bub, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean I can't appreciate the Hugh Jackman Wolverine. For me, it's just, especially now that we're kind of getting into multiverse stuff, I can just theoretically say, well, that comic accurate one is in a different Earth right now, and this is this take on Spider-Man. So yes, this Spider-Man was given a suit by Tony Stark, but Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who is canon in this, if Doc Ock and Green Goblin are, and if he shows up, he created his own suit. That's great. There's room for all of these interpretations and the way that it's all going to be. And, it just drives me nuts when we get that. Same thing with like Batman. We get that all the time where people say, well, this Batman was this Batman was that. We're approaching like our 5th or 6th Batman at this point. It's, at this point it is what it is. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just enjoy them. Like, each of these Spider-Man actors has brought something different to the table and has brought their own style really to the Spider-Man that they're playing. And I think that makes it so enjoyable to go back and watch all of the other ones, because you can point out the differences in them and still like be like, oh, that's a cool different thing that this Spider-Man does. Like, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he doesn't have web shooters. He shoots the webs out of his own out of his arms, basically. Like, I mean, that's unique and different.
There's a rumor that's addressed in this movie.
I was gonna say, I hope they use the opportunity to get like the Civil War line. I think it's Falcon who delivers it, or Bucky, where they're like fighting Spider-Man in the airport, and he's like, "Is this stuff coming out of you?" Like that,
yeah,
like that, and that would be perfect, and like that would be kind of like kind of like the on your left thing in Endgame, like kind of like that moment where people who have watched all of these are gonna catch that. And otherwise, it will be a funny joke anyway, or like something anyway. But yeah, just I hope like everyone just sits back, enjoy each of these Spider-Mans because they're all great. They have different backstories, yes, but they fit their universe as well, and they're all funny, and they're all Spider-Man. Like I don't have like a particular favorite. I mean, I guess Tom Holland just because it's the one I've watched the most.
Mhm.
I never actually saw the original Spider-Mans in theaters, predictably, because I was 2 when the first one came out.
Oh
So-
my goodness, that makes me feel so
Yeah,
old.
sorry
I was
to
in
do that
fifth
again.
grade.
Sorry to do that again, but
I was in
yeah,
fifth grade.
but I loved the Amazing Spider-Man. I played the Amazing Spider-Man game on the Wii U, which was fantastic, and I played it to death. Basically, I think I put in like
Wii
30
U.
hours. Yeah, on 30 hours on a Wii U game for goodness sake.
Well,
Like
that means you missed the really good games, didn't you? Because Spider-Man
I know,
2,
yeah. I've
the
heard
movie,
great things about
yeah,
those.
the PS2 version of it was so great. Like seriously. So okay, the first game, you're flying around and like you're just attaching to the sky. Like there's no
Yeah.
real physics, right? But the second game, they're like, oh, you can only web swing if you're over a building, and it like had all that kind of stuff. It had a great storyline. Even had a Mysterio storyline that you had to go in and face Mysterio in a theater and stuff. It was really cool. And then it was like those things were happening in between the Doc Ock stuff.
Nice.
So
Okay.
that was really fun.
I should get a PS2 or something and
yeah, play it
and get
definitely.
this. Yeah.
There is a code, a cheat code in the first one where you could play as Green Goblin and Mary Jane. So I was like, it's still Peter's voice and stuff, but you're like swinging as Mary Jane, like in her dress and stuff.
in the Amazing Spider-Man game, there was a cheat code where you could play as Stan Lee. So
really?
you had Stan Lee swinging around as Spider-Man, and it was his voice too. Like he did voiceover work for it. So it was just hilarious. Like, but yeah.
Have you played the Insomniac games?
No, I don't think so. No, I haven't.
Yeah, because so do you have a PS4 or PS5?
I don't know.
You gotta get one.
I know. I need to. I need to get one. Yeah.
Because those are the best Spider-Man games ever. And actually,
they look great.
I'm not sure if I talked about it on here, but Spider-Man PS4 is my favorite interpretation of Spider-Man ever.
Okay.
Perfect voice, perfect characterization. He is the definitive Spider-Man for me at this point. So
I'm gonna have to get a PS4 soon so I can
yeah, he's my guy. Spider-Man's my favorite character, and that's my favorite interpretation. It's just I've been replaying it on my PS5 because they have like when I bought the Miles Morales game on PS5, I bought the deluxe version, and it gave me a free update of Spider-Man 4, the Spider-Man game, but on Spider-Man on PS5. So
nice. Okay,
it's been a lot of fun, and they're building up to a Green Goblin storyline as well. So
okay, hey, we could probably do an entire episode on Marvel superhero video games. Yeah,
Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 are really great too.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, but any last thoughts on this Spider-Man trailer?
I'm just so excited for December. I mean, it'll be finals. It'll be finals for college, but all I'm going to be looking forward to is the Spider-Man movie. It looks absolutely incredible. I'm excited to see more Doctor Strange since he's my second favorite MCU character, or just Marvel character in general, even. So
is that how it goes? It goes Ant-Man, then Doctor Strange? Is that right?
So, yeah, it's Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and then Black Panther for me, which is kind of unfortunate because I'm not going to get to see more of him. But for now, that's kind of my order of like my top 3.
The good thing is, though, at least with Black Panther, they've not abandoned the whole world of that.
I'm so happy about that.
They're able to continue stuff to help representation and all that kind of stuff. So that's really great. All right. Well, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at TO Infinity Saga on Twitter, Facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond. That's where the video is posted if you want to watch me and the trailer at the same time, talk about it. Though you probably hear a lot of the same stuff we just talked about. And then email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com if you want to contact us about any of your theories on what's going on here with the Spider-Man or what if or whichever. So thank you, Jack, for coming back on, and we'll have you back on for episode 4. I can't believe it's already episode 4. What
Yeah,
if?
right. And if you want to follow me at jcprasad16, I'm going to be hopefully on at the beginning of September going to get the Lego collectible minifigure series of the Marvel run to hopefully unpackage and kind of give reviews on a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how that goes, but I'm hoping to do that. So if you're interested in that, follow me on there.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch you next time for episode 4.